There's a lost ecosystem in Hong Kong. We used to have reefs formed by the local oyster, Chrysostrea hongkongensis, but they're all gone. For the past 700 years, people have been eating oysters, harvesting them to burn their shells to make lime. There's been development along the coastline. What we now have left in Hong Kong is not full oyster reefs, but oyster communities and oyster beds, which are much smaller in size than the oyster reefs. Now at SWIMS, we're doing research to find out where oyster reefs used to be in Hong Kong, if there are any left, and how to bring them back.
I'm now flying a drone and taking aerial photo of this bay. From these photos, I'll see where the oyster beds are.
Based on preliminary drone surveys, we found that there are a lot of oyster habitat around this area. So based on these preliminary surveys, we are now doing field sampling. So we will take subsamples of all the different species that we find amongst the oyster habitat and take them back to the lab for identification and genotyping. So we will use DNA barcoding techniques to create a comprehensive data set of all the different oyster reef associated biodiversity.
There are places in Hong Kong where oysters are still plentiful, but they're not wild. They're grown for food. But the oyster growing industry in Hong Kong is now in decline.
Hong Kong is having a 700 years old aquaculture industry. It's a history, it's a cultural heritage of Hong Kong. And this industry is facing a huge problem now because of global climate change as well as the regional environmental issues in the Greater Bay Area. Since we have been working with about 100 oyster growers in La Fushan area, and these growers have over 7,000 oyster farms.
I think this is the climate change will let it happen. The water is very salty. I think this is the main problem. It is frequently cause the large-scale oyster death. Some family they abandon the farming the oyster and then they go out to work.
To solve this problem at SWIMS, we have developed two technologies. Number one, we have worked with the local growers and established a depuration plant. In the depuration plant, we remove bacteria before oysters goes into the market, and we guarantee food security and safety. In the second, we have developed a hatchery technology. We have set up an oyster aquaculture hatchery at SWIMS in close collaboration with the local industry as well as the government. And through this hatchery, we identified a fast-growing, climate change tolerant oyster seeds.
If oyster reef ecosystems have really been lost in Hong Kong, then let's rebuild them.